I gotta say, the games we're gonna be talking about this week has been bizarre for the NFL. That's really all I'm gonna reveal for this intro. Welcome to Grizzly Talks Football. We're in episode 30 now. Crazy stuff. And this episode is week 10 NFL reactions. We had primetime games having video game numbers, and we had several teams not be able to score a single touchdown, only kicking field goals. Sad. If you are new to the series, I will leave a link in the description with a full playlist so that you guys can go over there and watch every single video so you don't miss anything. And you'll also have it for future videos whenever I post them, like this one. Also make sure to hit the red subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. I actually got 9 out of 14 games this week. I miscounted at some point, but it's actually 9 and 5. So, anyways, without further ado, let's get to the games. Kicking things off, we had the Thursday night football game, which I believe was the game of the week. Bengals losing to the Ravens by 1 point, 35-34. This game was insane. Both QBs combined for 700 yards and through the air and 8 total touchdowns between the two. What the hell? On the day, Joe Burrow had 34-56. He threw 56 times. They only ran the ball 16 total times. He had 428 yards for Burrow and 4 touchdowns. Wow. Besides Chase Brown's rushing touchdown, well, the rushing game was non-existent because they didn't run a lot. Tanner Hudson had the other touchdown, but Jamar Chase had 11 catches, 264 yards, and 3 touchdowns. We haven't seen a stat line like this since Tyreek Hill on the Chiefs, on the damn Chiefs. No sacks or interceptions forced by this team, and they were able to stop the run better than teams have done. Like, teams couldn't really stop Derrick Henry from getting 100 yards. Bengals managed to do that, but passing game and scoring, that's a different story. I will say, though, 2-point conversion at the end, referees can't decide that. Like, they missed 2 penalties on that 2-point conversion, a face mask and a defensive holding. That's completely on the referees, and the Ravens lucked out with it. Lamar Jackson had 25-33, 290 yards, not as many yards as Burrow, but he also had 4 touchdowns on the day. Derrick Henry, like I said, he got held to 68 rushing yards, and he actually did score a touchdown though. Tylan Wallace led the way in receiving. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. 3 catches, 115 yards, and a score. The other touchdowns went to Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, and Nelson Aguilar. I haven't heard that name either. Run defense was impressive. They also had a fumble recovery. I think it was Marlon Humphrey that forced it, and Roquan Smith did get a fumble recovery. But there was also 3 sacks in this game, all by Nnamdi Madubuike. I hope I said that right. Both these teams are elite. Let me just say that. I know the Bengals are 4-6 right now, but they are still a really good team. I think they can make the playoffs. Both of these teams are going to be AFC North contenders for the postseason. Next up, we had the Sunday morning game in Munich, Germany, between the Giants and the Panthers, with the Panthers needing overtime to beat the Giants 20-17. A good old-fashioned tank bowl with a tank bowl kind of ending, a fumble into a field goal by Carolina. But seriously, Giants, you lost to Carolina? Couldn't be us. But wait, the Panthers have 2 wins in a row? Oh shit. Daniel Jones played like hot ass, 22-37, 190 yards, 2 picks on the day. Tyrone Tracy got a rushing touchdown, 100 yards. Daniel Jones also had a rushing touchdown, but nobody cares. Oh yeah, and Tyrone Tracy also fumbled the football in overtime that cost him the game. Receiving game was led by Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors. No surprise here, 11 catches and 100 yards for both of those combined. Giants defense played like garbage. Well, passing game, it wasn't so bad, but the rushing game, yikes. And there was only one good thing about this team, a Brian Burns sack. As for the Panthers, Bryce Young had a solid game. He had a safe game, 15-25, 120 yards and a score. Chuba Hubbard continues to dominate and be the best player on that Carolina offense. 28 carries, 150 yards and a score. Also, if I hear one more time that Chuba Hubbard is Barry Sanders or Emmitt Smith in disguise, I'm going to punch someone. Just admit he's elite. He seriously does need to get the hell out of Carolina because he is not getting anything there. Jalen Coker and Xavier Leggett had the most receiving yards with 3 catches, each 41 and 40 yards respectively. 2 sacks and 2 picks for this defense. 1 interception by Xavier Woods, and Josie Jewell got 1 as well, along with a fumble recovery if I'm not mistaken. I'm very sure Ashawn Robinson or DJ Wonnum forced a fumble in overtime that Jewell was able to recover, but I'm not sure which one forced it out. But regardless, the Giants still suck. Like, every New York team sucks in the NFL. I don't understand why people keep having false hope. Could win in Carolina, you're still trying to go for a top draft pick, right? Up next for the Sunday 1 o'clock slate, kicking it off, we had the Patriots embarrassing the Bears 19-3. Let me just say, you need to fire Matt Eberflus now. He is the one person holding your team back besides the offensive line. Drake May didn't have a bad game, at least. 15-25, 180 yards, a touchdown and a pick. He was pretty mid. Ramondre Stevenson led rushing with 74 yards. Other than that, it was pretty solid. Austin Hooper, a former Falcon, led the team in receiving with 3 catches for 64 yards, but the only touchdown for that offense was a touchdown by Jalen Polk, the Washington dude that played for our backup quarterback, Michael Penix. But dear God, the Pats defense got 9 sacks on Caleb Williams. 9, including 2 from Dietrich Wise and Anthony Jennings. Offensive line was just a bunch of assholes, meaning they all sucked. Caleb Williams did not have a good time in that pocket. 16-30, 120 yards, easily one of his worst games. DeAndre Swift got held to 59 yards. Yeah, I'm telling you, that offensive line is terrible. Keenan Allen led receiving with 5 catches for 44 yards, but that's not saying much. I mean, T.J. Edwards got an interception and Jacob Martin got the only sack in the game, but this was just a bad game for Chicago. Also, kudos to Joey Sly for getting 4 field goals and getting 13 points in this game. Joey easily the MVP of this game, but man, this was an embarrassing loss for the Bears. Yeah, you guys are under 500. So much for the NFC North being at least 500 for every team in the league. At least in the division. I don't care if the Pats won, they're still going for a top draft pick. Their roster is terrible. Up next, we had the injury bowl between the 49ers and the Bucs, with the 49ers coming out on top thanks to a Jake Booty field goal at the end of the game, 23-20. Feels good to be the only team with a winning record in the division. No offense, Tampa Bay, but thanks to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin's injuries, you guys are cooked. Ignoring the rushing game because it was hot ass, Brock Purdy had 25-36 for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jeez. And by the way, Christian McCaffrey's back. He got 6 catches for 68 yards, but then Javon Jennings led the team in receiving with 7 catches, 93 yards, and the touchdowns went to George Kittle and Ricky Pearsall. Wow, what a story for him. You know, the guy who got on his leg? Yeah, that guy got a touchdown. Good for him. 2 sacks on the game, one by Nick Bosa and the other by Malik Collins. They weren't really able to stop the offense that much, but they were able to get the win regardless, so a win's a win. But can I also talk about the fact that Jake Moody attempted 6 field goals? Why did you do this to him, Shanahan? Well, at least he made 3 of them. If he made all 6 of his field goals, they would have won 32-20, but at least they won anyway. As for the Bucs, Baker Mayfield, 18-29, 116 yards and a score. Man, very inconsistent. The only people who scored touchdowns were the running backs. Bucky Irving got 1 on the ground, and Rachaad White got 1 through the air. The only one through the air. I mean, come on! The receiving core is absolutely battered. The Bucs had 3 sacks, 1 from Kancey, 1 from Trayon Shayenka, and 1 from Greg Gaines, but it just wasn't enough. They just could not stop the passing game. They just couldn't stop the 49ers from getting into their territory, man. The race for the NFC West crown continues. Up next, we have the Chiefs stealing the game away from the Broncos with a blocked fucking field goal. 16-14. Denver, you had one job! Stop the Chiefs from being undefeated. Let's sure hope Buffalo has a chance next week. Wyatt's World, I'm looking right at you. Will Lutz had a horrible game. Chiefs escape again. 15 straight wins, regular and postseason now. This has to fucking end. Bo Nix had a very solid game. 22 of 30 for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. You can't blame him. You can blame the rushing game that was led by Audric Estime. How? Cortland Sutton led the team receiving with 6 catches, 70 yards, and a score, with the other touchdown going to Devon Bailey? I'm not gonna lie, I never heard of that guy. No picks, but the Broncos had 4 sacks in this game. How did they lose like this? Will Lutz was the main problem. He didn't make a single field goal. Even one of those would have won them the game. Chiefs' rushing game was ass, but Patrick Mahomes had a pretty solid game as well. 28 of 42, 260 yards, and a touchdown. He actually got outplayed by Bo Nix. And the Chiefs still won. Leading receiver was Kareem Hunt, the running back. 7 catches for 65 yards, but Travis Kelce, 8 catches, 64 yards, and a score. But 2 sacks by Nazeeh Johnson and Nick Bolton. There was also a blocked field goal. I actually don't even know who it was. I think it was... I don't even know. But the Chiefs got a blocked field goal and they're still unbeaten. I want this nightmare to end, but honestly, our nightmare has already begun. Up next, we got the Bills beating the Colts 30-20. You better do that against Kansas City, Buffalo. Both quarterbacks did not have the best games in the world. Not even close. Let's start with Josh Allen. 22 of 37, 280 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. But he did get a rushing touchdown, though. James Cook also had 80 rushing yards and the other rushing touchdown. And their leading receiver was Matt Collins, 4 catches, 86 yards. That's interesting. Defense had 4 sacks and 3 interceptions. Austin Johnson had 1, Taron Johnson and Taylor Rapp had interceptions. Rousseau and Ebenezer were 2 of the 4 sacks. Buffalo's defense played extremely well, and that showed. But Joe Flacco, damn. 26 of 35, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks. I thought you were elite, bro. Jonathan Taylor had 114 yards. Buffalo Bills couldn't stop the run, but yet they got all those sacks and turnovers. Oh yeah, Flacco fumbled the ball, so that's 4 turnovers for Flacco. Michael Pittman was hurt, but Alec Pierce led the team in receiving with 4 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown, with the other touchdown going to their own running back, Tyler Goodson. 2 sacks and 2 picks for this team. Kwity Paye and Herbert got sacks, with EJ Speed and Kenny Morgan interceptions, and Nick Ross and Zaire Franklin. The other suspects on defense, besides Speed, I call them the 3 suspects because they were 3 guys who I think came from out of nowhere to start for the Colts and played pretty well. Both defenses played well, and it's just the turnovers for Flacco really cost him the game. Buffalo, you might be our only hope of ending the Chiefs' undefeated season. Goes to send you 2 Dolphins. I really hope you hear this. Please curse the Chiefs. Up next, we had the game of the day, obviously. Steelers beating the Commanders with a touchdown with like 2 minutes left or something like that. 28-27. This was a very good game. Washington, you are not a bad team at all. You are really building something over there in Landover. I hope you two, you Washington fans, have some high hope for that season. I think you guys have a chance to win a playoff game this year. As for the passing, Russell Wilson at 14-28 for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns and interception. Not bad. Najee Harris had the only rushing touchdown in the game, but him and Jaylen Warren combined for just about 120 yards. No surprise, George Pickens led the team in receiving with 5 catches for 91 yards and a score. That pains me playing against him. With Mike Williams getting the game-winning 32-yard touchdown in the 4th quarter, and Pat Freiermuth, he had a touchdown. 3 sacks for this defense, including 2 from Cam Hayward. He still got it. Let me rephrase. Cam never lost it. Jane Daniels had 17 of 34 for 200 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Not bad. Running backs had 3 touchdowns, basically the only thing positive for the rushing game. 2 touchdowns for Eckler, 1 for McNichols. Unsurprisingly, Scary Terry McLaurin had 5 catches for 113 yards, leading the receiving corps by a mile. 3 sacks and an interception by Jeremy Chin, and Dante Fowler also had 2 sacks. He is still here in this league to stay, and he is a really good pass rusher. I wouldn't say Washington's in win now mode, but they have got a good culture going. Keep it up, Washington. And as for Pittsburgh, you guys are looking like you guys are going to make the playoffs. Mike Tomlin is going to go above 500 again. Steelers and Ravens is going to be absolute cinema. Next up, we got the Vikings beating the Jags by only kicking field goals, 12-7. Let me tell you guys before you forget, there were 5 teams this week that only scored field goals. 5! Like, that might be one of the most in the NFL in a single week. That gets me pissed. Who sapped Sam Darnold's powers, man? 24-38, 240 yards, but 3 interceptions. Rushing game was led by Aaron Jones, who had 5 yards to carry and 88 rushing yards. And the leading receiver was a returning TJ Hawkinson, who had 8 catches for 72 yards. Justin Jefferson fantasy owners are a little upset, especially when Jefferson has 5 catches. At least the defense did its job with 2 interceptions by Cameron Bynum and Byron Murphy and 3 sacks on the day. But man, Mac Jones played like hot ass. 14-22, 111 yards and 2 picks. Rushing game was horrible except for Mac Jones' touchdown on the ground. The leading receiver was Evan Engram with 6 catches and 40 yards. The only sack of the game was by Trayvon Walker, and then there were 3 interceptions. Foye Oluokun, Darnell Savage, and Montero Brown got picks on Darnold. And yet somehow it still wasn't enough because Mac Jones was not playing well. He was playing like shit. I gotta say, Minnesota, this was a very ugly win. You guys have the Packers and the Lions still to play. Even the Bears twice. Yeah, you guys need to get it together. And the final game of the Sunday 1 o'clock slate. Yep, I'm pissed. We lose to the Saints 20-17. Well, the only good news is that we're on top of the NFC South and we're the only one with a winning record right now, I guess. But the Saints' 7-game losing streak just ended. I'm pissed. Kirk Cousins played a decent game. 300 yards, 23 of 38, but no touchdowns and a pick. Bijan carried the load in the rushing game with 116 yards, about 6 yards to carry, and 2 scores. Saints couldn't stop the run if their life depended on it. Darnell Mooney and Drake London led the receiving game with 13 catches and 195 yards combined between the two. And Kyle Pitts got a little bit more fantasy points with 4 catches, 55 yards, but I think he needs more touches. Just a thought. No sacks or interceptions. We did stop the run very well, and unfortunately the passing game was a whole different story. And this was definitely one of Younghoe Koo's worst games. Man, he had like 2 50-plus yard field goals he missed. He missed 3 field goals that could have won us the game, but he blew it. And could I also mention that 4th and 4 call, with 5-6 seconds left, you called a swing pass on 4th and 4. You needed 4 yards. Why you pass that behind the line of scrimmage? Like, who does that? Derek Carr had 60 and 25 for 270 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. Rushing game was complete ass. MVS had 3 catches, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns, all in the first half. 3 sacks and an interception by the Honey Badger on the day for the defense. Men, besides the run game, they were able to hold us to field goals, which were eventually missed. Most of them were missed. Just forget this loss ever happened. Let's just move on to the next game. We got Denver. That should be fun. Kicking off the 4 o'clock slate, we got the Titans losing to the Chargers 27-17. This game was closer than I could have expected. The Charger defense allowed the Titans to come back in this game and only lose by 10 points. Jim? What happened there? Of all people to have a good game, Will Levis? 18-23, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns? What is the defense doing? Rushing game was pretty mid. Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard only got held to under 50 yards. Calvin Ridley was the star of the show on the offense. 5 catches, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a solid catch at the beginning of the game when they were up 7-3. Man, Titans have those feel-good moments, don't they? But then it gets snatched away in the second half. No sacks or picks, but solid game for Jack Gibbons and the tackling. Man, he was all over the field. And Justin Herbert only threw 18 times. What? 14 of 18, 160 yards and a touchdown. You're limiting his potential, Jim. 2 touchdowns on the ground. Herbert got one of them, so did Hassan Haskins. So Justin Herbert had 2 total touchdowns, and Hassan Haskins had the other one. Leading receiver was Ladd McConkey, who only had 2 catches, 52 yards, with Will Dissly getting 5 catches? with a touchdown going to Quentin Johnston, who I just picked up in waivers. And check this out, 7 sacks for the Charger defense. 2 for Tuli Tuipulotu and 2 for Bud Dupree. Pretty solid game for the defense, just the offense just struggled to score. Or at least move the ball down the field. Chargers, you got a lot of issues to fix because there's no way you made Will Levis actually look good. There's no way. Up next, we got the Jets getting smacked by the Cardinals, 31-6. This was over by halftime. Let me just say, New York Jets and Giants sucking. It's just not surprising at this point. Not even Zach Wilson can thrive with that offensive line. Aaron Rodgers has that same offensive line. It's not working out. How are Jets fans this delusional? Aaron Rodgers, not very good. 22-35 for 150 yards. Rushing game. Only 2 players carried the load, and it was mid. Not worth talking about it, but Garrett Wilson has 5 catches for 41 yards, leading the team. 9 total players, different players, had receptions, and none of them had a touchdown. Only thing to really talk about is a sack by Quincy Williams on defense, but that's about it. Shout out to Spencer Schrader for getting all of the Jets points because the offense couldn't do shit. But on the other hand, Kyler Murray had an otherworldly game. 22-24, 266 yards through the air, touchdown through the air, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. James Conner had the other touchdown with Trey Benz getting 6 yards to carry on 62 yards. Wow. The leading receiver was James Conner with 5 catches for 80 yards, and the only touchdown through the air was to Marvin Harrison. He's back in the touchdown column. No interceptions forced by the Cardinals, but there were 3 sacks. Buda Baker got 1 of them. Man, the Cardinals just dominated on both sides of the ball, and just nothing the Jets could do. Good job, Cardinals. You're still leading the NFC West, somehow. Cardinals to be playoff contenders? And the final game of this Sunday 4 o'clock slate, we have the Eagles smacking the Cowboys. The Cowgirls. The Cowboys. 34-6. I think it's time to just call it a season, Jerry. I think they call for this end of the season as soon as Dak Prescott got hurt. Not much to really talk about here. Jalen Hurts, 14-20, 200 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns through the air and a pick, and he also had 2 touchdowns on the ground to make it 4 total. A.J. Brown led the receiving with 5 catches, 100 yards, and the 2 touchdowns went to Dallas Goedert and Johnny Wilson? Never heard of him. Interception by C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and there was also 3 sacks. Cooper Rush lost a ton of fumbles, I will say that. I think he lost 4 of them? Even with Cooper Rush or Trey Lance, the passing game is complete ass. 17-29, 66 yards and a pick. How do you throw 66 yards in a single game as a team unless you're Bo Nix? Rushing game, pretty ass. Skipping the defense because receiving core is not even worth talking about. Interception by Trayvon Diggs. I think you already saw the half sacks for some of the players, but there was a total of 5 sacks in this game. 2 sacks for Overshown and 2 for a returning Micah Parsons. Unfortunate, Micah, you returned a little bit too late because you got no quarterback. At this point, call up Tony Romo to come out of retirement and just throw the ball for the Cowboys instead of glazing Patrick Mahomes at this point. Eagles get set for Thursday night against the Commanders. Next up, we got the Sunday Night Football matchup where the Lions edged out the Texans 26-23 with a Jake Bates last-second field goal. That guy's the GOAT. I'm just kidding. He's a rookie, but he's looking really good. And if you thought Jamar Chase had video game numbers, wait till you see what Jared Goff put up. 15-30, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. That's as many interceptions as teams who only kicked field goals all week. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery continue to be the 2-headed monster at running back, with Montgomery scoring the only touchdown on the ground. Sam Laporta and the Monarch St. Brown had 9 catches, 126 yards, and both touchdowns combined between the two. 4 sacks for the defense and 2 interceptions by Carlton Davis. I was expecting it to be Brian Branch, but it's still 2 picks regardless, so good for you, Carlton. How did the Texans lose like that? C.J. Stroud didn't look any better. 19-33, 232 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. Rushing game was hot ass except for Joe Mixon's rushing touchdown. And coming from out of nowhere is John Mechie, who had 5 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown leading the receiving corps. What? Let me just say, how do you lose this game when you had 5 interceptions? You had 5 turnovers on the lines. 2 interceptions by Kamari Lassiter. 1 by Caleb Bullock. 1 by Tutu. 1 by Jimmy Ward. How do you lose this game? You win your turnover battle just to lose the game because your offense can't seem to score any points and your defense crumbles in the 4th quarter to allow Jake Bates to kick a game-winning field goal. Speaking of Jake, shout out to him for getting both of his field goals, including the game-winning one that won the Lions the game and sent them to 8-1. Your season's not over yet, Houston, but you got a lot of things to work out. And the final game is the Monday night game between the Dolphins and the Rams, with the Dolphins coming out on top 23-15. And by the way, the Rams only kicked field goals. They kicked 5 field goals all game. Cardi was a beast in this game, MVP for the Rams. Tua had a solid game, 20 of 28, 200 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Rushing game was ass except for Malik Washington's rushing touchdown. I still don't know who the hell that is. Jalen Waddle led receiving with 3 catches for 57 yards, with Devontae Chain getting 5 catches, and the only person who scored a touchdown was Tyreek Hill. Welcome back to the touchdown column, brother. 4 sacks in this game for the Dolphins defense, and an interception by Anthony Walker. Defense had a very good game, not allowing a single touchdown all game. And as for the Rams, Matt Stafford, 32 of 46 for 300 yards, and you don't throw a single touchdown, and you also threw a pick. Kyron Williams had 63 rushing yards for nothing. Puka Nacua is still a freaking beast on the receiving corps along with Cooper Kupp. They combined for 16 catches and almost 180 yards. 3 sacks in this game for both of these guys. And an interception by Christian Roseboom. He almost had 2 interceptions. In fact, Jared Verse had a strip sack and a fumble recovery in the game. That was impressive. Let me say, Rams getting back in the first round really paid off with that pick. If only the Rams could have scored a touchdown, they would actually had a chance to win this game, but nope. They failed miserably in the red zone. Are the Dolphins back, or is this just false hope again? Anyways, that is going to do it for Grizzly Talks Football. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you smash that like button. Don't forget to hit the red subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. This is the Grizz, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace!